tighten your seatbelts as we welcome a tech luminary who wears many, many hats. Some of them are experienced tech leader, mentor, and public speaker in the clouds, DevOps, and sustainable IT space. This dynamic individual is deeply fascinated by sustainability in IT and its profound impact on value delivery, cost reduction, and efficiency. This passion led to him in creating the Sustainable IT Manifesto, something that we actually inaugurated today morning at the DevOps India Summit. So today we have the privilege of gaining insights from someone who believes that communication and customer-centric approach are the bedrocks of IT success. With a pragmatic mindset that values value delivery at the forefront, he is here to share his wisdom on agile and sustainable tech. And it's not just work that keeps our speaker busy. He is a hand weaver, board game designer, coffee enthusiast, avid reader, and wait for this, he is a kitchen experimenter. Yes, he brings a unique blend of skills onto the stage. So before I invite him on stage, I want to gauge the energy in this room. So ladies and gentlemen, are you guys ready for this session? Can we have a louder yes? Are you guys ready? Yes. So shall we call him on stage? All right, ladies and gentlemen, put your hands together for the one and only, the incredible Mr. Matt Williams. All right, well, one more thing. It's already 4 o'clock. We just have 1 hour left for the DevOps India Summit quiz. So for all you guys whose phones have not been hacked by Madhu, please register for the quiz. The QR code is right there on the screen. You should participate. We have already had 150 plus registrations, as I just mentioned some time back. And I'm hoping that the number crosses 200. All right, because we are going to announce the winners in 1 hour from now. So please stay back and let's hope that the best people win. So Matt, are you ready? All right, can we have a big round of applause once again for Matt Williams, everyone, who's joining us all the way from the USA.
Good afternoon, everybody. Enjoying the conference so far? Yes? Going to come back next year? Awesome. I hope to as well. So I'm going to be speaking today about Agile and sustainability, how you can do things that are pragmatic. I'm going to skip over this one. It was already read. So first off, this is my first trip to India. And I was asked this morning to share a little bit about it. Maybe? There are many friendly inhabitants. Many friendly inhabitants that I happen to meet on the way. There's great food. I've had a very comfortable hotel room. The shower. Oh, the shower. I could talk for an hour on the wonders of the shower, but we don't have that much time. And I've also had the chance to meet a lot of wonderful people. Yesterday, there was in the butterfly area a class trip. You know, at first I saw a bunch of girls, and I'm like, oh, it's Girl Guides, okay. No, then there were boys, and then I was swarmed by 40 kids asking 20 questions at a time. And it was wonderful, because they were very curious, and they asked some really good questions, and they all wanted to know where I was from, and they wanted to know if I knew Canada. And well, you know, I knew they meant the language, but I'm like, okay, I'll play stupid America, right? So I'm like, oh, you mean the country? Oh, Canada. Oh, they all thought that was hilarious. So namaste, and thank you for making me feel welcome here. I greatly appreciate it. The slides are available, and this will be back up again at the end. So don't worry about whipping your cameras out yet. So what we're going to talk about is sustainability in IT. How can we do it? Well, let's start off with a 3-step simple plan. Step 1, we're going to talk about sustainability. Step 2, let's skip that. We'll come back later. And step 3, we're going to save the world. So I have about half an hour. Well, by this point, probably 25 minutes. So I'm going to go quickly. That's part of why the slides are available for you to download. There's notes with them. So, and again, if you have any questions afterwards, hit me up. I'll be here. So I'm just going to sum up. But if you take nothing else away, be pragmatic. That's the most important thing here. Make better choices. You know, there's good choices, there's bad choices. Let's avoid the bad choices. But as we are building our systems, let's try and do better choices when we can. Reduce pain points and make small, gradual improvements. It's a journey. It's not a race, and it's not something that we'll be able to accomplish overnight. Hey, wow, sounds like DevOps, doesn't it? So why does sustainability matter? Anyone a parent? Anyone have younger siblings? Anyone have, you know, people that they care about? You know, let's make this world last. It's the only world we have. You know, I know that there are people who suggest that we should go to Mars. It's really cold there. And, you know, I don't know about the rest of you, but, you know, I heard people talking about, you know, the air quality in New Delhi. Well, the problem with the air in Mars is there isn't any. So we've got one planet. Let's make the best of it that we can. How does IT impact? Well, we use lots of resources. Anything from electricity to metals to mining and all of the problems caused by mining. I recently moved to Colorado, and there are places where the water in lakes and rivers, because of mining that happened over 100 years ago, it's really pretty colored. You don't want to go in it, though. And, you know, all of the rare earth elements and things that we use, you know, these are all impacts that IT has. And water. Last year, Microsoft, just so that it could have an AI-powered Bing, their water usage increased by 30%. So, we consume energy. We have e-waste. We have a big carbon footprint that's getting bigger. And there's other resources that are used. I'm going to shift gears real quick. It's talking about ESG. Anybody here of ESG? Maybe one or two of you. So E stands for environmental, S for social, G for governance. These are impacts that companies and systems can have. As there are movements around the world for making them required to be reported on. Europe, the US was supposed to have one, and I believe India either has one or very shortly will have one for the larger companies. California, so it's coming. You know, companies are having to be able to tell, you know, here's our impacts. My landlady in Colorado works for a company that does heat pumps for storing and retrieving energy and things like that. And her company's phone is ringing off the hook because all of these other companies have said, oh, we're going to meet this sustainability goal, and haven't. But in a legal document, they said they would. So they're like, can you help us? Please, please. So this is something that's going to become bigger and bigger. The more that we can be cognizant of sustainability and its impacts, how we affect people's environment, how we affect lives, how we affect everything around us, becomes more and more and more important. So, you heard me say this morning that if you build it, they will come. You might also, I'm going to quote another great man and say, I had a dream. And, you know, it pretty much is a dream. It is a dream where people are empowered, where people have the ability to make changes, where people have the ability to affect their world for the better, to make a better world a better place. Okay, yes, I totally copied some parts of it. But you know, Good artists copy, great artists steal. You know, it's been done over the centuries. There is nothing new under the sun. And that was said, I don't know what, 1000 BC? So we're going to choose, wherever possible, to be efficient in our energy over having raw performance. Now, there might be some times where you need raw performance. Is this going to be a batch job that runs once a year and takes 15 minutes versus 5 minutes? No. Choose efficiency there. But for banking and trading, you might need raw performance. Again, this is pragmatic. We're going to choose resource efficiency over abundance. Once upon a time, and I'm showing my age here, I had a computer with 512 bytes of RAM. Okay? I've used others that had 4 kilobytes of RAM. When's the last time you worried about bytes or kilobytes? When's the last time you worried about megabytes? Yeah. Let's see if we can go back to where it makes sense, understanding what we really need, rather than doing things like Java programmers who have a hash inside a hash inside a hash. That never happens, does it? Yeah, it does, all the time. We're going to choose long-term stability over short-term gains. Don't worry about the stock price next quarter so much. Let's build our company for the long run. Holistically, how does our system affect the organization? How do things work end-to-end versus silos? One of my pet peeves is encapsulation. One of the very first things they teach you in IT, break it up into small little bits, and so you only have to worry about your small little bit. Guess what? All of our applications are siloed applications as a result. All of our development teams are siloed development teams because this person wrote this part, this person wrote that part. And east is east and west is west, and there the twain shall meet. So we need to have a better understanding, end to end, how everything needs to work together. We need to look at what is our return to the environment over what is the return on investment. Think long term. How many times have you had a architect go off for 6 months, put together something, and then present it to your team and say, here's your next project. Do it exactly like I told you to. Anybody ever have that happen before? Yeah. So we need to work together. And frankly, in a lot of ways, this manifesto, it's DevOps. It's just DevOps the way it should be. The main thing that we have to do as DevOps practitioners is communicate. Communication is the key to DevOps. So as a part of that, in the manifesto, we need to communicate with each other. We need to be, dare I say it, agile. Things change. Just because somebody said that we are going to deliver on such and such a time, especially if it's somebody who's not working on the project, plans change. We discover new things. We find things that weren't quite the way we thought they were going to be. And yet, far too many times, to meet some arbitrary deadline, we indulge in death marches. And who writes good code after 30 to 60 hours of being awake? If there's anyone in here, I will give you 1,000 rupee right now. Well, I got to run up to my room to get my cash, but yes. Anyone? Anyone take me up on it? Yeah, I didn't think so. We need to recognize that we are all people. People are developing systems. And if you don't take the person involved in part of it, as part of it, then you seriously have problems. How many times has somebody written a report to make themselves look good? You may have heard the quote, there are lies, damned lies, and statistics. Yeah. All right, let's be honest. Let's put together real numbers. Now, one of the nice things is, as DevOps practitioners, most likely, you already have numbers, right? You're gathering metrics. Because if you don't, gather it, then you don't know it. Well, then, you can take these numbers that you've been gathering, and when your executives need to report on how they are achieving ESG goals, you can say, hey, look, I already got this. We're already doing this. And they'll be happy, and hopefully, although I doubt it, you'll get a raise. Anybody ever work at a company that's been around for a while? That, they do things a certain way? Because everybody knows that. And we've been doing that for the last 10 years, 15 years, what have you. Anybody ever work at a place like that? How well do we work when things have changed? I've been working in computers for over 30 years now. And the changes have been phenomenal. Of course, there's still a lot of things that are just the same with a new buzzword. But there are so many things. A few years ago, I told my daughter that I had a magic mirror, that I could see things on the other side of the world, that I could talk to people on the other side of the world. And, being a kid, they're like, okay, Dad, yeah, right, show me. So I whip out my cell phone. And you know what they said? That's not magic, that's technology. But, how many people could remember a time before cell phones? Remember a time before smartphones? Remember a time before the internet was at your fingertips at all times? The biggest research library in the world. Things change, so we need to change and adapt with them. We need to choose people as a group, as a community. I'm going to steal another line here, but it takes a village. It takes all of us working together. We also want to have eco-friendly materials as opposed to cheap alternatives. Frankly, the cheap stuff falls apart pretty quick, so you end up spending more in the long run. We also want to have device longevity over planned obsolescence. I really, really, really wish that they would do this with cell phones. Because cell phones seem to have this baked-in time bomb after about 2 years that they go, bleh! But, for our laptops, how many people use a MacBook? A fair number of you, right? If they try and replace it after 3 years, does it still work after 3 years? Yeah. I bought one last year that was had been off the books because they had finished. It'd been used for 4 years or something like that. I bought it. I paid $700 American for it, and I expect I'll probably get another 3 or 4 years at least out of it. I have other laptops that I've had since 2014. They still work just fine. We don't want to have things cluttered and sticking around. Now, some of the older hardware may not be as energy efficient, so it might make sense to replace it. But putting on an architect hat here, it depends. So everybody in IT, yay! I'm glad I have big words. Everybody in IT has a role that they can contribute to sustainability. If you're an Agile practitioner or a Scrum manager, master, not manager, master, you can, facilitate sustainability discussions. At your retros, talk about sustainability. When you're doing planning, hey, how can we make this more sustainable? Continuous improvement's part of it too. You know, for analysts, they can optimize their data centers. They can gather metrics. You know, if you don't measure it, you don't know it. DevOps, you know, build out energy efficient infrastructures. If you don't need tons of copies of something, if you don't need to recompile something every single time, reuse. And I'm going to plug the 3 ways here. Anybody ever hear of the 3 ways? A couple of you. All right, read The Phoenix Project by Gene Kim. And here I will give you, the Reader's Digest edition. 1, if you find something that's preventing you from delivering value to your customers, fix it. You can prioritize. Do the low-hanging fruit. Do the easy stuff first. Show value. Deliver value to your customers. 2, fast feedback loops, right? Anybody ever work on a project where you'd write code, check it in, the testers might get to it 6 months or a year later, and then they come to you and say, this is broken? Never happens, does it? No. That's closer to somebody that they get feedback, the easier it is to fix. This morning, mic wasn't working. Well, I got instant feedback on that, didn't I? And we fixed it. The 3rd way, Gene Kim refers to having an environment that encourages experimentation, not expectation, experimentation and playing, learning stuff. I actually prefer to look at it as continuous improvement. And the reason I do is by stressing continuous improvement, it means that even though we're delivering value, we could be delivering value better. So we need to go back to the first way. And some of that's going to be experimentation. Developers, make good algorithm choices. Understand your data. Believe it or not, sometimes a sequential search might very well be the best search. It depends. And user support. Call help centers, call desks. They all can help users setting up energy efficient settings and practices. Have your monitor go dim after a certain amount of time. Have your screens go blank. Put the computer to sleep. Hardware designers can make good choices. Leadership. Leadership also has a role. They help build culture, or they should. If they're not, then that's a problem. But one of the nice things about the manifesto is these are things that individual contributors can do. These are ways that individual contributors can work towards more sustainable solutions and systems. Managers, set your priorities. Include sustainability as a priority. Product owners, the product owner can bake in from the very beginning. How are we going to make this sustainable? QA. Do you really, really, really need to do a full regression test anytime somebody checks in a line of code? You might. Now, if you're, say, in the banking sector, and you have to certify that all of various codes and regulations are supported and passed, then yes, you might. And this is why I'm saying it's pragmatic. Make good choices. Make better choices. Systems architects, as you're designing your system, make sure that it is going to help support good practices. So here's some of the practices. Not an exhaustive list. Again, remember, we're going through this. I'm just summing up. So the whole thing about measure versus whether you know anything about it, it's been attributed to a lot of people, but there was some research done, and it looks like it was actually, although he's a bit wordy, Lord Kelvin. So good DevOps practices. Cloud optimization. Do you really need for that EC2 instance to be running 24/7, 365? Especially, say, if it is a test harness. You know, shut it down if you're not using it. Just bring it back up when you need it again. Use energy-efficient hardware. I actually have a cloud in a box. It's about yay, by yay, by yay. That's got about 20 computers on it, 36 core, a 24-port gigabit switch, multiple SSDs, and it draws 45 watts. Raspberry Pi cluster with rack-mounted Raspberry Pis. So, you know, 45 watts, you know, for 36 cores, that's a lot of cores per watt. How do you manage your e-waste? You know, how do you dispose of these things? Do you just chuck it in a bin? Do you recycle? Do you reuse? Sustainable coding. Make good choices. Now, there could be a case for writing code that's more maintainable. Choose green hosting options. Smart testing. Again, do you really need to run that regression test every time? Resource management. You know, for computers, I have interacted with a lot of developers who are younger than I am, who believe that RAM, CPU, disk space, and network are all infinite. So manage your resources. Only use what you really need. How many times have you know, and I'll admit I do this as well. You know, I'm about to work on a file and I copy file name to file name dash today's date dot back dot 123. Anybody ever do that? Yeah, I'm guilty of it. But delete it when you don't need it. Continuous improvement. Always strive to do better. Do more. Do better. So, what are some of the benefits? You know, beyond saving the planet, we can reduce operating costs. You know, we can avoid regulatory issues. The people who run the company really don't want to see the company's name in the papers as breaking the law, usually. And in conclusion, sustainability in IT is not just a trend, it's a responsibility. It's something that we all can do. It's something that we all need to do. And every IT professional can have an impact and play a role. Small steps will lead to big changes. If you build it, they will come. And only you can promote sustainability. And I'm going to skip over the questions. Thank you.